Welcome to episode 1 of our Men at Arms series, and this is the Battle of the Somme.
The Battle of the Somme began on the 24th of June 1916 and finished in September of that year. After 18 months of near static warfare, there was much clamour for the war to be over by Christmas. Shelling of German positions began on the 24th of June, and by the 1st of July 1916, over 1.5 million shells had been fired, having little effect on German defences. The main British assault went in on the 1st of July 1916, and it is the ordinary infantrymen of that day we shall focus on, beginning with those chaps who went over in the first wave.
After receiving their additional equipment, the men start to find places to put it. They put their 2 Mills bombs in their front pockets and they put the bandoliers around their necks. Whilst they do this, they get themselves into the headspace to perform the arduous task that they have ahead of them.
The men that went in on the first wave at the Battle of Somme on the 1st of July 1916 were dressed as this soldier is here. So the lads who are going on the first wave, they need to fight light because they are the spearhead of the assault. So he has his webbing in battle order with the adage of his 2 bandoliers, and he has his 2 Mills bombs. His bayonet is fixed onto the end of the rifle because it's going to get into close quarter fighting when he gets into the German lines. So the soldier on his back has a shovel. Yes, he is part of the spearhead attack that is going to take that frontline German trench. However, as soon as they get into those trenches, they're going to need to start fortifying it. So with the aid of a shovel, as well as their entrenching tools, they're able to form themselves some form of defence before the second wave comes in to relieve them.
At 0730 hours, troops in the first wave alight from their frontline trenches and begin to walk across no man's land towards the German positions.
We were anxious to be over the top. At 0 hour, 0730, we climbed out the 2 trenches. 2 platoons in advance had been laid out of white tape and formed the first wave. Every man climbed out the trench at the whistle of the officers, and not a man hesitated. But I was lucky. I was in part of a trench where the parados had been battered down as Jerry sought for a trench mortar. When I ran up the rise out of the trench, I was under a hail of bullets which were whizzing over my head. But most of our fellows were killed kneeling on the fire step on the parados.
So this is a soldier who would be on the second wave of the attack. So remember, the man on the first wave is the spearhead. He has gone to take the German front line. These men in the second wave need to resupply that first wave that's already gone in. So, with exactly the same as what the soldier was wearing before, he's got the adage of extra ammunition, in this case grenades, to replenish the grenades that have already been used by the first wave to give over to them. Also, those men have been fighting hard, and the weather as well. So they're going to need water. So he's also bringing up water to that front line. So once they get up to that first wave, they'll hand over the ammunition to them so they could replenish their ammunition. Then his wave will continue on in a leapfrog. So the first wave can then rest.
As the second wave sets off from their starting positions, it is becoming agonisingly clear that the assault's not going well. The German front line has only been penetrated in a handful of locations, and with comms lines broken and casualties mounting, the men have to resort to ancient but reliable methods of communication.
As well as runners, you could also rely on these homing pigeons. So they'll take these pigeons into action with them, and if you needed a message to get back to headquarters quicker than a runner could run, use a homing pigeon. And all they need to do is attach the message to their ankle, release it, and the message will get back to Divisional HQ. So what message would need to get back to Divisional HQ really quickly? Artillery fire is a really good one. So if you want artillery fire onto your position ASAP, all you got to do, attach the message to the pigeon will take it, and you'll get your artillery fire. Unsung hero of the First World War, a humble pigeon. And it's time for this pigeon to get its message back to Divisional HQ.
One of the more common methods of communication was to use runners, a very dangerous and exhausting job.
Communication on the battlefield is vital, and before you can get proper communications laid up, such as field telephones, all you've got really are the use of these men. These are the runners. So they'll be handed their message and they'll take it back to the rear area to relay the message. So the runner will not wear webbing. Why? Because he needs to be as light as possible. Because it's vital for him to get that message back as quickly as he can. So with webbing, it's going to weigh him down. Plus when he gets back into the trenches, he needs to get through those narrow passageways. So he just needs to be more effective in the job that he's actually doing.
It was just as if we were almost was like a training exercise, which was really, I suppose, absolutely mad when you come to think of it. We were just in extended order with everything on your back, your rifle, your bayonet, your entrenching tool and everything else. We were just walking straight towards the German lines in extended order. Well, we were sitting ducks all the way. Our earlier training, you see, for open warfare, run so far, then lie down and then run a bit further. But this was just walking straight into the death trap. Hundreds of us, just hopeless.
So, what was Tommy carrying during the Somme offensive? Of course, he'd be wearing his service dress. At the top here, we've got his service dress jacket, and inside the pockets, you would have his pay book and various other pieces of personal paperwork, letter writing material, etc. He would also be carrying his 2 Mills bombs, as that was the convenient place for the Tommy to carry them. Around him and on his shoulders, he would be wearing his 1908 pattern web equipment. This consists of 2 ammunition carriers. Each pouch has the capacity to hold 15 rounds in each, but Tommy was generally carrying 10 rounds in each pouch, so he would be carrying 100 rounds in the weapon itself. On the waist belt, on the back, he is carrying his ground sheet, and this provides a means of keeping him dry. If it was to rain, you can also create a makeshift shelter or lean-to, and this is tied to the back of the belt. As you can see here, suspended, he's got his ever faithful tin mug, so you know, if water comes round or a hot brew, whenever, it's easy access for him to get to and enjoy his cup of hot wet. On his back here, we have the haversack, and this would be not quite all of his worldly possessions, but most of them. It would be what he would need in the field to sustain himself. And so this would be a day's ration, this would be a tin of bully beef, hardtack biscuits. He also, in this particular case, is carrying a Tommy trench cooker. He would have bought this himself, he wouldn't have been rationing it, and this is to enable him to heat up any food, make a hot cup of tea, etc. Suspending from the back of his haversack, he would have his mess tins, and this would be a vessel for him to cook and eat out of. On his right hand side, he has a water bottle. This contains 2 pints of water, and he was only allowed to drink from it under the order of an officer, as this is to try and preserve water. Obviously, if you're going over the top, you're going on an offensive, you may not know when you're going to be resupplied, so it's key about preserving water, and especially when the Somme kicked off. You know, it was relatively warm weather, so trying to preserve the water as much as possible was key. Underneath that, he has his entrenching tool head. This wouldn't have been for digging a trench. This is for making a small shell scrape, as in no man's land and what have you, when he was coming under fire. As I say, that's the head, and then you've got the handle here. So this would make a combination of a pickaxe and spade. Next to his entrenching tool handle, he has his 1907 bayonet for his short magazine, the Enfield. Key for when it comes to closing with the Bosch. Obviously, rifles, machine guns, etc. were the main adversary of the Tommy, but you also had gas. So he is carrying his tube-type helmet or PH hood. And this is made of cloth and made of shirt material, double layered, and has 2 windows for him to see out of, be pulled over his head and tucked inside his jacket collar. And so he'd breathe in through his mouth, through his nose even, and so the cloth would have been stained in a chemical, as you've seen in previous episodes, and enabling to breathe clean air in, and he has a valve in his mouth which he breathes out to allow him to obviously get rid of any air. On his head, he would be wearing his Brodie helmet or battle bowler, Tommy helmet, whatever you want to call it, made of steel. Not bulletproof, but it provides key protection to the head against shrapnel. On the top, as you can see here, it is in a denim or cotton cover, and this is to provide any shine of the shiny painted metal, reflecting and exposing Tommy even more. And wrapped around his ankles, he has the ubiquitous puttee. This is to provide ankle support and stop his trousers and what have you getting all caught up and what have you. So returning to the contents of the pack, we have what was called a holdall, a soldier's holdall, and this would contain his knife, fork and spoon, his method of cleaning himself and washing himself, personal grooming, his shaving implements, his toothbrush, etc. You may think, why is a soldier taking this stuff into battle? Well, the reason why, as I said earlier, you're not sure when you're going to get resupplied, and of course, trench is a dirty environment. You need to keep yourself clean to prevent stuff like trench fever and other diseases. So you would still, obviously, not under fire. You ain't going to be brushing his teeth under fire. But soon after, and it's again in the same way how he's got his mug on his back, on his belt. It's easy access for when the opportunity does arise. As well as all of that, he'll be carrying extra equipment. So when you're going over the top, you're going onto the offensive, you need to take extra firepower with you. Obviously, you have the Lewis guns, etc. But a soldier himself needs, he may need more ammunition as the fight goes on. That is why every soldier was given 2 extra cotton bandoliers of 50 rounds in each to provide him with extra ammunition. As well, with extra equipment that he's carrying a general service shovel here. And so that would be what Tommy would be carrying on the first day of the Somme.
Shortly after the first wave went over the top, the stretcher bearers swung into action. Often unfairly overlooked, these men were unarmed and saved countless lives, and there were also some of the most bravest men, including Lance Corporal William Coltman of the North Staffordshire Regiment, who was not only awarded the Military Medal and Bar, Distinguished Conduct Medal and Bar, but the Victoria Cross too. He was the most decorated of a rank of the First World War.
Another type of infantryman that you're going to find on the battlefield are these guys. These are the stretcher bearers. They'd either be volunteers or they'll be designated to do the job in hand, because all these men would have come from the line companies. So he would have been a trained infantry soldier, just that for this occasion he could have just been selected to do this job. And his job would be to bring the casualties off of the battlefield. He's not a medic by any stretch of the imagination. He has very basic first aid skills. He's able to do a very quick triage. So remember, he's going out into no man's land, rounds coming past him, shells going off, all that palaver. And in that intense adrenaline rush, he's got to work out which soldier has got the best chance of survival. And him and his oppo, who he'll be carrying the stretcher with, have got to make that snap decision of, is this man going to make it if I get him back to our lines to receive medical treatment? So as you can see, he doesn't wear his webbing. He has a bag which is full of field dressings to bandage wounds. Obviously has his water bottle as well, so he can hydrate himself and the casualty. Obviously has his PH hood as well, and his helmet. The other thing that we've got as well is he's taken his service dress trousers and has cut them into shorts. Until September, when gas becomes quite intense, shorts start to disappear again.
The first day of the Somme has gone down in history as the worst day in British military history. In one day alone, the British experienced just under 60,000 casualties, of which 19,240 men were killed. The battle drew on for at least another 3 months, and owing to the fact of the terrible losses experienced, ushered in a new dawn of tactics such as the all-arms offensive, which was to be used to great effect the following year.
We hope you've enjoyed the first instalment of our Men at Arms series. If you'd like to support us in our work, please join us on Patreon for as little as £1 a month. But until next time, keep history alive.